First, I just want to apologize first, because, well, I can apologize for so many things this morning, but one of them, I have on an old pair of glasses, so my vision's not as good. So if I, like I'm reading the text and things, y'all, I don't know what you had to drink last night, but y'all are a little fuzzy this morning. Okay, I'm just saying. So I don't know, how many of you remember your dreams in the morning? It doesn't even seem like half, unless you're just not being honest with me. Now, for those of you that remember your dreams, are they like really detailed? Do you have like these really detailed dreams? Yeah. Mine are very, very detailed dreams. And there are times I wake up exhausted in the morning because I have been so active all night long in my dreams and doing things and being with people, and there's a lot of emotions that are caught up in them, and I don't know, and it's always harder, and the dreams always make sense. When you even when I'm awake, and if I'm thinking about the dream, on the one hand, I know it doesn't make sense, but because it all flowed, it kind of makes sense, but the minute I try to speak it out loud, it doesn't make any sense at all. And I can't even find the words. I mean, have any of you tried to explain your dreams, and you can't find the words to hang it all together because it just doesn't make sense. Any of you have that issue? Yeah. Okay, good. I'm not alone there. And so today we hear Joseph's dream. And one of the things that I don't even know what it means, but I find it interesting that we don't hear about this dream from Joseph's own lips. He's not the one that tells us about it. Matthew tells us about the dream. And in fact, throughout all the Gospels, we never hear one word out of Joseph's mouth. We never hear Joseph trying to explain anything to anybody. We don't hear him talking back to Mary, assuming that Mary's the one that told him that she was pregnant. We don't get to hear that conversation, and I'd really like to be fly on the wall for that. We don't hear Joseph explaining his decisions. We don't hear him talking about anything, so we don't really know exactly what Joseph brings to that. But in order to really get this story about Jesus' birth and about Mary, we really do need to know something about Joseph and about the decisions that he makes and the things that he does in their lives. And so even though we don't have him telling us, we do get little bits of that story in the Gospels. So I want to look at the few things that we know about Joseph and just kind of talk about some of those. So even though we don't have much information, here's what we know. It says he is a righteous man. He's a righteous man. He is a person that tries to make sure that his life and the public actions that he does are consistent with what he believes about the will of God. So for us, for the readers in this ancient Mediterranean world, they know when we say that Joseph is a righteous man, he's a man full of honor. He is always going to try and do something that does the best for the other person and for his family. And remember, this isn't about individuals. It's more, what I do is more than what affects me. It's about my whole family. I represent my family. So Mary represents her family. Joseph is about his family. Their whole marriage is not about that they met and fell in love, or that they dated and fell in love. That's not the story of Mary and Joseph. The story of Mary and Joseph is that probably a long time ago, their parents decided that for some political or financial reason, that they were going to join their families together. And so Mary's family negotiated with Joseph's family through gifts, through reputation, through whatever, for Mary and Joseph to be betrothed. And there's a very good chance that Mary and Joseph haven't really met, and they certainly never have been alone together, because in that culture they wouldn't have been. So they are betrothed to one another. Now, in all of this, the important thing is, of course, the family and the reputations, which means that Joseph we already know that he's a person that's going to do and say everything that he understands to be the will of God and bring that into this relationship. And theoretically, Mary's family, and Mary would be on that same level where she's going to want to live out the will of God as best she can. So betrothal isn't like this engagement where it's sort of the pre-wedding and then we get to plan it all. Betrothal is it's the second stage of marriage. Because the first one is when the families come together and begin the discussion. And once they agree that they're going to continue the discussion about bringing these families together, in the eyes of everybody, Mary and Joseph are already married. Now they're living with their families still because they haven't gotten to the final step, but in the eyes of the law and the culture, they're married. And for them to break off a betrothal, they have to go through the legal proceedings of divorce. Now, they're there. They're married, separate, never been alone together. Somehow, Mary is found to be pregnant. And Joseph knows it's not his. And according to the times, according to the custom of the law, he has a couple of options. One, and this is the way that would give his family the most honor, okay? This would be what his culture would think would be the best thing for him to do. He would publicly disgrace Mary. He would divorce her in a very ugly public way, point out that she has defiled herself and her family by having marital relationships outside of marriage, and that he would give her back to her father. And that would bring honor to Joseph and his family. And then for Mary's father to be able to restore honor to his family, what would they do? What do you hear about in the news sometimes? I think I heard that, throwing stones, an honor killing. They would kill her. That would be the best thing for the family, would be to kill Mary. And then everybody would come out looking good, except Mary. But that's the most common and prescribed way for that to handle. Thank goodness we have outgrown that. I see some of you men smiling. Even with my blurry eyes, I see the smiles on your faces. The second thing that he could do would be to divorce her a little bit more quietly. And believe it or not, this still leaves a level of disgrace for Joseph by doing it in what we would think to be the nicer way. And it's going to put more of a burden on Mary's family to decide what they're going to do with this. But he could dismiss her quietly, give her back to her family, and her family then has the option of whether to kill her or to maybe send her away forever, that she could never ever come back again. So those are the two options that Joseph has in his world, in his day, in order to be righteous, to continue to be the man of God that people know him to be. And he decides, for whatever reasons, that rather than putting her to this public shame, he's going to be willing to take on a little bit of shame himself in order to grant her the possibility of life. And there's a good chance, and I'm not sure, but by doing it this way, Joseph is also opening up the possibility that the man who has made her pregnant can come forth and claim her. And then this man can take Mary and his child and move away. So there's that little bit, there's that grace in there, and that's what Joseph decides to do. Well, Mary, I think, is very lucky that she is betrothed to Joseph, and that what we know is that he seeks to serve God the best way that he can. Because we know the full story, we know the end of it, but they're still in the very beginning of this story, the very beginnings of finding out that she's pregnant and not knowing who the father is. And we don't even know how much Mary's told people. I promise you, it was an angel from God. If she told them that, the chances are pretty good that they don't believe that. So Joseph has made his decision with the best information, the best ways that he knows how to be faithful. And then he changes his mind. Or let's say that he rethinks it, or on what basis does Joseph act? A dream. He bases a new way of thinking, of behaving, of showing a relationship that's not done. It's not the way we do things. You can tell he's not Scandinavian Lutheran. It's not the way we do things. Based on a dream, Joseph takes Mary as his wife. He fulfills that contract with both of those families. And I wonder what their families thought about this, because by doing this, Joseph has taken the biggest risk that he could take. Joseph has risked the most important thing that he has, his reputation and his honor, because those were more valuable than money, because people interacted with you based on your honor. He's a carpenter. His business comes on whether or not he has shown himself to be honorable, to be righteous. That's going to affect his living more than anything. It's going to affect his status in the community. Everything is about his honor and his reputation, and the way to save it is to get rid of Mary. But he had a dream that the Lord came to him as an angel and said, "Do not be afraid to take Mary as your wife." And he woke up and remembered, and it made sense. And he chose to change everything to fulfill what he believed to be God's will for him in a way that looked completely different than he would have ever done before. And that's why you're here today, and why I'm here today. Because Joseph followed this dream. Because Jesus risked everything to put himself in a relationship with God that he thought God was calling him to. And this story continues to unfold so that 2,000 plus years later, you and I are still remembering that dream and what it means to say that out of this woman comes a child whose name is going to be Jesus, one who saves, to fulfill the prophecy of Emmanuel, God with us. And that in taking this risk of following, Joseph creates an environment in which we spring up as ones who follow the dream and the promise and the fulfillment that God spoke. So think about that for our lives, but think about this. How do you know when to listen to your dreams? How do you know when a dream that maybe doesn't make sense is in fact the dream that you need to be following? Or that it's a dream that's coming to you from God? I can tell you that there are many times when I have spoken with men who have very high-level positions that are struggling with how to figure out a problem at work, to sort it out. And they tell me that in their sleep, the answer comes to them. And the next day, they're able to go into the office and they have this solution that came to them in a dream, something nobody else in the company had thought about doing, and it works. I've heard that so many times. Think about the dreams that Thomas Edison had. Think about all the ways that dreams have changed us, because I really do think that in this time of pregnant waiting that Lutheran Church the Master is in, this is a time to start dreaming and listening to your dreams and saying, what is it that God might have us do here and now in ways that we won't think about unless we dream it? Unless God plants a dream in our hearts and our minds that may just not make sense. That may call us as this people to risk everything in order to be faithful to that which God calls us to do. I think that that's where we're at together as the people of the Lutheran Church of the Master. And I do challenge you to see that this is who you are as well in your baptism. That just like the kids have this wonderful name, that's your name. You were a child of God, and you still are. And you're still the ones baptized in this water that say, you are my child. In you I plant my spirit, and my spirit soars with dreams. My spirit can take you places that you never thought possible. When you open yourself to me, when you light your hearts with the flame of the Spirit, when you live out with each other the ways that reflect through your words and your life the integrity that you have as washed people of God. We're here today because of a dream. Joseph's dream, God's dream, maybe the dreams of those pastors that have come before you. But today you're the dreamers. You're the ones through whom God is trying to speak and to work in order to find the ways that 2,000 years from now people will say, wow, what a great idea. What a great ministry. What faithful people. I want to dream like the people of God. I want to dream in ways that challenge me like Joseph was challenged. I want that to be what we are about as people of God every day. So I challenge you to dream and remember. And remember that what might not make sense to you makes sense to